Hello and welcome to another edition of Together We Write. My name is Chris Perzicki, and I am your humble instructor, assistant professor here at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay. And we're focusing today on a couple of different topics. One of them being surveys, survey design, and the use of like how do we set up a simple survey using Microsoft Forms. And this should be applicable for those of you who prefer Google Forms or maybe not so much Qualtrics. That's a little bit more advanced than what we're going to cover, maybe some other time. However, but today we're just going to use Microsoft Forms, being a Microsoft campus. But the focus will really be on how to design a clear, clean, effective survey that doesn't have some of the many pitfalls that we see in surveys, such as double-barreled questions or leading questions that are somewhat unethical. And this is actually kind of a good time to be thinking about surveys because it's polling season. And just listening to some news this morning on the ride into work, polls are all over the place. It's hard to imagine how, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, how polls can be so different. The results, right? So even if you're talking about obviously different locations, different communities, but even as this broadcast was talking about this morning, even from similar regions, although the individuals polled are and surveyed are different, the factors and variables are even between they're similar. Um, the polls are different. The questions being asked are different. So, and those can change drastically. So, for example, one question was, how do you prefer either candidate when a third party is involved? And so, when there were, I believe, I can't even keep it straight anymore, but when there was a prominent third party running independently, it was seen as drawing from those other two, and they determined that through survey questions, just the way they were asked. And we're going to talk about surveys a little bit today, and then how to actually make one in Google Forms. And we're also going to talk a little bit, kind of return to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is, we're approaching that topic we're focusing on that topic in professional writing for business majors. And I believe, if I remember right, I've done this recording just about every semester. And so we'll maybe look at that again. We'll see how much time we have. All right. So welcome to the fourth week. For those of you who are joining us from the UWGB campus, I say us as though there's a vast production team sitting behind me. Of course, that's certainly not the case. I'm just going to check on the something interesting while I'm managing some things over here. The got an email the other day, I believe it was yesterday actually, from someone in administration announcing the release of the Flash AI assistant. And so, unfortunately, what it looks like is that is only for students, because I certainly was interested in checking it out. But Flash, the AI chatbot, has not responded yet. So apparently, it's not too concerned about how I'm proceeding through the semester. That's okay. All right, so I'm getting things loaded here. I'm just trying to make sure everything's running. We're doing all right. Make sure everything's operating. Seems to look okay. kind of just want to see when I looks like we're going good. Good. I'm sure I did LinkedIn at some point, but not seeing it in the thumbnails. One of these days I might have to invest in a production crew. Anyway, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Surveys. Let's start with that. That might take up the most time. In a recent conversation with Dr. Allison Jane Martingano, assistant professor of psychology here at UWGB, we're talking about empathy, specifically, trying to unpack the definition of empathy as it's been used in user experience or UX design and writing. And one of the goals of this, as far as the class goes, is to think about how the UX writer is involved in this process. And survey design is certainly one of them. If you think about the writer in general, what are we adept at? And that is writing, good, thoughtful, meaningful writing, as typically. Uh, and research. And so the survey, the design of a good survey is part and parcel of what we are good at. And so this is one of the many ways that the reasons that the UX writer has become a sort of a role or position that is distinct just slightly from the UX designer, even though there's a lot of overlap between the two. So I'm gonna show you and I'm gonna post this to Canvas as well, the interfaces course. And what we're looking at here, let me go ahead and see, it's left monitor, there we go. Here is our, this was pulled from UW-Madison. However, it looks like they pulled it from University of Colorado, Denver. So who knows where the breadcrumbs lead us, but another day. So let's first talk about some bad questions. For me, I always like to look at some bad examples, and that gives us a better idea of what we're looking for when it comes to. I can see I was here's the flash bot here, didn't work. All right. So anyway, let's look at some bad examples. First, I mentioned this before, a double-barreled question. And now a double-barreled question I seem to see these a lot, even before knowing what they were actually called. Please indicate how much you agree or disagree with each of the following statements about the child care program. Here's a little bit of contextual information. And so you have what follows is a statement that the person being surveyed would answer. So I feel welcomed by staff and other youth at the center. All right. What makes this a double-barreled question is that there are two kind of subjects here, right? The staff and other youth. I may have differing opinions about both, right? I certainly feel in any workplace, my clients, I look to them, I have views of them very differently from views of my coworkers, right? So I feel welcomed by staff and other youth at the center. You could have a very differing opinion. So the best way of doing that would be to separate those. I feel welcomed by staff at the center. I feel welcomed by other youth at the center. All right. So, and this also, where does this type of question come from? Not necessarily. If we set aside any, intentions, bad intentions, and trying to mislead the person being surveyed, let's set that aside. Even though it does exist, of course, we're going to set that aside and not really focus on that today. But here is one of the conflicts, especially if you're new to designing surveys. One of the goals is to keep your surveys short and simple, right? If I see a survey, if I get a link to a survey, I open it up and I see, that link at the bottom that's like, okay, page one, next, and then it tells me that I've 3 or 4 pages to go. I'm probably not going to do that survey anytime soon, if at all. Okay. If you have like a good element in UX design would be a sort of meter, a progress meter, how far you have to go. So it helps to know how much further you have to go in any sort of survey, right? So, but if I see a lot of questions that I still have to answer after the first page or screen full of questions, there's a good chance I'm going to leave and go maybe try to come back to it later if it's important. But otherwise, I might just skip it altogether because ain't no one got time for that, right? and it just looked like I had everything. I didn't unmute myself. So anyway, yes. The one of these days I gotta get these hotkeys set up. So back to the biased leading question. Community organizing is hard. Let me make sure. Let's see if there's. Oi, oi, oi. This is. All right. So here we have biased questions. Um, and what we do with biased questions are how do we avoid them? By eliminating uh, affective language, right? So organizing is hard. Packaging the question and priming the respondent to think negatively about the subject being asked about, right? So we don't, is this necessary? Not at all. Do leadership trainings help you feel prepared for community organizing? Well, that's entirely subjective, sure, but I mean, you're looking for opinions, so that there's a part of that that is um, necessary and expected, right? We're looking for opinions, we're looking for subjective experiences, but couching it in that language, first off, is unnecessary and helps uh, kind of prime that bias, prime the leading the user to maybe think a little bit more, answer a bit more negatively than they would otherwise. And so, by do leadership trainings help you feel prepared for community organizing? So, the way that question is being phrased, that's what we call leading, right? So you're leading the respondent to answer in a certain way. Do leadership trainings help you feel prepared for community organizing? The same could be said about any class. If you're taking one of my classes, chances are you're going to find that in many, many ways, any class that I'm teaching you had not adequately prepared you for situation X or situation Y or situation Z. There's plenty of them, right? The purpose of any sort of given course is not to help solve every sort of situation, but rather give a foundation for solving it on your own. So, do leadership trainings help you feel prepared for community organizing? Well, if I'm a good community organizer who had a good experience with leadership training and has found that the sort of workshops or whatever were beneficial, then I'm going to answer yes, right? However, if I'm say new, um, if I'm currently involved in the leadership training, or the leadership training was say taught by someone who was not as effective, if I didn't really like their style, or whatever it was, there's a number of different factors. The leadership trainings prepare me for community organizing, right? So this helps um, think about, do the leadership trainings prepare me for community organizing? Although it's small, there's a slight shift here in focus, whereas the focus is more on the training itself rather than my own response or attitude towards that training. It's acknowledging that I might be responding to those trainings differently from others in that training, right? So the leadership trainings prepare me for community organizing. I would say if I were participating in a workshop, say about, for leadership training, and it gave me some good things to think about, some good materials, there were good activities, what have you, I might say strongly agree, right? Um, if, however, and again, the focus is on the training itself, not so much my own. It gives me a chance to reflect and maybe be a bit more objective about the quality of that training. Okay. Just making sure that my mute button was not checked. All right. So double negative. Double negative is, does it seem impossible to you that the moon landing never happened? This is just a matter of clarity. Okay. There's, just in general, we typically do not write with double negatives. It's confusing. Just reading it now, I'm kind of trying to figure out what is being asked of me, versus does it seem possible to you that the moon landing never happened? All right, so that is sort of asking, again, you're looking for a subjective opinion here a little bit more. This is not, and this is would be a tricky one because this even the subject matter is sort of charged, right? So even asking this question would be tricky because you're automatically priming the respondent to, depending on whether they're into conspiracy theories or not, they're going to respond a certain way. But does it seem possible to you that the moon landing never happened? Eh, even that the ambiguity in here, does it seem possible to you that the moon landing never happened? I was waiting to see if they had another one. There's got to be a better way of writing that. Do you think that the moon landing actually happened? Might be a better question. But this is looking at a gauge, right? This is looking at a spectrum of possibility, right? So does it seem possible to you that the moon landing never happened? I would say very impossible. For whatever reasons, that's not what the question's asking. But, here's where you start to get into, very possible. Another one. Um, I might actually say there should be an impossible and possible. Maybe. Well, no, it's right here. Possible, impossible. Okay. Yeah, I was reading that a little bit wrong. Sorry. So, but you have this. Um, if someone were to, now you could make this a leading question by giving contextual information. Does it seem possible to you that the moon landing never happened? Um, that's a tricky one. That's a very tricky one. But anyway, you want to avoid double negatives. Okay. So here are some more bad survey questions. I'm just going to go through a few more of these, kind of keeping an eye on the clock. I don't think we're going to have time to do LinkedIn today, but that's all right because I'm sure there's another video on the channel about LinkedIn. So and there's plenty of other instruction out there about that. So more people have attended the following are bad examples of survey questions. Identify one error in each question, double-barreled, and the way to fix the errors. More people have attended the movie Gone with the Wind than any other motion picture produced this century. Have you seen this movie? Yes or no? Um, I would say if I were to look at all three of these, I would say that's a biased or leading question because it is more people have attended the movie Gone with the Wind, than any other motion picture produced this century. Okay. So that is sort of contextualizing this movie, stating that it's incredibly popular. Um, I would be willing to. Now I'm kind of curious. Movie most attended in history. Let's see what happens. Up, Gone with the Wind. Yeah. Over 200 million tickets sold. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, even though it's factually accurate, more people have attended the movie Gone with the Wind than any other motion picture. Have you seen this movie? Yes or no? You could just say, have you seen the movie Gone with the Wind? Right? Okay. In your opinion, how would you rate the speed and accuracy of your work? I can tell you right now that if my speed is excellent and if I'm moving along at a good clip, my accuracy is probably going the opposite direction, and vice versa. I mean, more accurate takes more time. So that would definitely be a double-barreled question. Did you first hear about the bombing from a friend or relative, from a newspaper, from the television or radio or other electronic media? That could be a combination. From your spouse, at work. That seems to be, there's not so much about, I don't think that's bias. I don't think that's double negative. So it's got to be, I'm guessing it's a double barreled question, but maybe the television or radio or other electronic media. How do you feel about the following statement? We should not reduce military spending. Yeah, so there's some tricky ones in here. Oh, here we go. Have you seen the movie Gone with the Wind? Right? Okay, good. In your opinion, yeah. So breaking those questions up into two categories are not mutually exclusive. Did you hear about the bombing from a friend, a relative, a media source? So I was getting there. Um, so that was a categories are not mutually exclusive, double negative. How do you feel about the following statement? We should reduce military spending. What was the way it was written? We should not reduce. Oh, say so should not and then reduce. That would be double negative, I guess. All right. So those are the three big things to avoid. Um, Honestly, full disclosure, I hadn't really thought about it so much. I just these some of these categories are fairly new. The best direction I've had on survey design is just keeping it very clear, keeping it very simple. All right, so let's go over to Microsoft Forms. How do we make these surveys? Okay, so I've got a few here. I usually make these surveys for variety of purposes. Just kind of keeping, asking questions. Don't usually assign quizzes. If you took, what was it, copy editing class with me last year, you know that quizzes are not my strong suit. And but I usually use Microsoft Forms or Google Forms if in certain situations, but especially for campus use, I use Microsoft Forms because I believe this information is secure. Now, don't quote me on that though, because I remember many years ago that that the security, that sort of how we're a Microsoft campus and a lot of that personal data is secured uh, on campus and not used to say train AI or what have you. But I don't know about forms, um, and that would be a question worth asking because I know if I look over here, like the one the one I'm thinking of is Stream. I believe that is not secured, or at least it wasn't back in 2020, 2019. So that's a while ago, so that may have changed. All right. So how to create a form is pretty straightforward. Okay. This has changed. This changes almost every single time I open this up. And so you have um, almost like a drag and drop. You can quick start. And so your choices, you can do multiple choice, ratings, Likert, all these other ones. We're just going to keep it simple. And especially if you've never created a survey before, I would highly recommend keeping it as simple as possible. You don't, I like drag and drop. I like increased interactivity, but I also, out of respect for the people taking the surveys that I make, I want them to be able to get through it really, really fast. So I try to make sure I have a clear objective with the information that I'm gathering. And so that might be the first thing that you start to think about even before putting your survey together is really, let's say, what do I want to make a survey on? Favorite. Kind of looking at my. So I am trying to put together a survey about the make sure just to see what everyone's preference for drinking vessels are, cups, water bottles, etc. So I want to start off with an objective statement. This survey with this survey, I am collecting data on personal preferences regarding drinking vessels. I think that's i.e. cups, water bottles, glassware, plastic, etc. And then I might say I might have some additional information. Responses are anonymous. And now, so here is another important thing to think about before putting your survey together, right? Do you want, if your respondents are anonymous, that will make it difficult to contact them if you wanted to do additional questions, like if you wanted to get more if you wanted to ask follow-up questions, right? So, this is again one of those design considerations that you have to think about. Are not anonymous, but email addresses may be used if you select opt to be contacted for follow-up questions. Okay. Okay. So this is for the sake of simplicity. I would like to craft that a little bit more, but I'm gonna go ahead and move this up. Okay, so let's do a multiple choice one. Now, what is going on here? So I gotta edit that one. So the first thing, let's take a look at, okay, how do we start to design this? Okay, how do we start to think about the questions that we're asking to make them helpful, to give us the information that we want? We're really looking at the what. Okay, we're not looking so much for why. That might be something that we talk about in follow-up questions, but especially when we're talking about UX, user experience, we are trying to think of, we're looking at how a user experiences something. We're trying to make a process or a product better by first of all, identifying those frustrations and the needs of the user. Not really thinking about why. Why is the user using the Flash AI chatbot? I'm not really concerned about that as the designer, right? What I am concerned about first and foremost is the functionality of the product, right? So I'm looking at the what and the how, not so much the why. Okay, so a good idea is to start with demographics, and so think about some more quantitative data. Start to categorize your information. Start off there so it makes it a little bit easier in the long run. So let's say do you, um, start off how, what type of container do you use to drink from? And this is kind of a, I'm not sure if I like that actually, because that could be, uh, do you, uh, this actually, what I'm going to, I'm trying to get a closed question, closed response question first. Now, closed are the sort of, multiple choice. These are the questions that are, or scales. These are the questions that are, you have like a handful of answers, and your job as the respondent is to select one. Uh, so I'm not going to say drinking from containers is hard. Um, what, hmm, which of the following drinking containers have you used in the past week? Okay. So add all. So you could do that. Um, all of the above, none of the above. Okay. So I'm gonna start to populate this. I'm gonna add an other one too, just in case. So again, we're gonna do uh, glassware. Oops, what's going on here? There you go. Glassware, water bottle. Let's see, I'm gonna do pint glass, water bottle. There we go. Add option. Let's keep it simple. We'll do, what's another one? Let's see, mason jar. Those were popular there for a little while. Let's do coffee mug, or let's do mug. Let's see what else. Let's do paper cup. And we'll leave it at that. Okay, we'll move these down here. None of the above, all of the above, and other. Okay. So now again, thinking about the way the question is designed, this other might be an issue. It might make things too. Could help me identify different types that I had not thought about, but it also could make things a little bit muddier, right? There could be much wider array than what I'm looking for. But this is what we call a closed question, right? You've only got a few options here, and this is really what you are. Excuse me, one second. Just not even gonna bother muting that. Sorry. Okay, so that's in closed. Here is let's go back to this one. I kind of want to get rid of this though. Yeah, there we go. Get rid of that. Let's do a open question where the answers are more text entry. The person adds a little bit of information into the field in their answer. And so, how do we? One way of doing this, asking this sort of open-ended question, right? All right. Let's see. Make sure which of the following drinking containers have you used in the past week? Um, Yeah, again, this could probably be clarified a little bit. Which of the following drinking containers have you used in the past week? Which of the following have you used to consume a beverage in the past week? That might be a little bit better. So I might just go ahead and tweak that. Um, which of the following have you used to drink beverages over the past week? Very unlikely that people keep track of this, but so here's a how do we do an open-ended question of actually we might actually now for this I was gonna say I could duplicate this, but I want to get to it. All right, so let's say how we do an open question of the ones of the containers selected, which do you have at home? Okay, that's not so long. I'm not sure, whether the question is required or not. That's another option, right? So there are certainly more subtitle restrictions, add branching. Branching question is if they ask one yes or no, and then that would lead to a different question depending on what the answer is. But here you have an open-ended question, and I'm going to leave it at that. All right. So it's here we have our. Going to preview it. We've got our. Go ahead and fill it. Got a drinking glass. So I can already tell. Next thing, other tip for creating surveys: make sure you test them before you send them out. That's really important. I'm going to go back. I'm going to edit this. Multiple choice, multiple answers. There we go. There's no limit. Okay. Go ahead and nope. It's going to preview. So drinking glass, water bottle, mug, paper cup. What else? Not sure what we would call this. Thermal mug. I don't know. I'm not sure what these trendy things are. Of the containers selected, which do you have at home? Mug, glass, water bottle, thermal mug, that type of thing. Okay, so I'm going to submit that. Keep the information with you, save my response. Okay, so let's favorite drinking vessels. Now, here is where this, let me go ahead and see if I can try something out here. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to collect, nope, it's the wrong form. Okay, let's see if I can, mug, submit. Okay, so I'm going to go to Microsoft Forms. Let's see if favorite drinking vessels. Okay, this is the form. And that's what that's showing is, so that's the response that I gave. Okay. So now I want to, my forms, favorite drinking vessels, now I'm going to collect responses. And so this is where makes it really helpful. You can determine how much time it takes. 21 seconds is not too bad. I'm not sure. Let me look that up. How long should a survey take? Okay. Ideally, the ideal length of a survey depends on the number of factors, including the type of survey. 10 to 15 minutes keeps people's attention. That's really surprising. I would not expect it to take that long. General rule of thumb, your survey should not exceed 10 questions and it should take no more than 14 minutes. That's pretty good, okay? 14 minutes does seem like a little bit long, but 10 questions is pretty good. With a good mix of open and closed, keeps it a little bit more engaging and, mix those up a little bit. So here's the great thing. That when you start to gather more responses, you'll be provided with nice, helpful visualizations that you can use. You can also open it up in Excel, which is makes it much more useful. Okay. So with that, it takes a little bit of time. Tells you who responded. There is an option. I'll go over that in a second, and it just tells you the responses. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the questions, and I'm going to let's go over the settings. So, especially for those of you who are making these surveys for a classroom exercise, and most of the people are going to be, and that your respondents are going to be in house or on campus, so to speak. Only people in UWGB can respond. This is a good way of keeping the survey a little bit more secure. If you want anyone to respond, you can see if I were to say send this to family members or people off campus, the response will be anonymous. Okay, so that doesn't give you a chance. Only record name, one response per person. So you have these options to make it anonymous. People can respond multiple times. So there are a number of options here. The start date, end date, set time duration. So if you were doing a quiz, or if you want to add a time crunch for whatever reason, shuffle the questions. Shuffling the questions, you're clearly looking at more of a quiz type situation, or whereas a good, thoughtful, intentional survey design is structured in a way that you get some categorical demographic information up first, and then you build those questions so that they sort of build off of one another. Okay, show a progress bar. Oh, that's interesting. Only available for multi-page surveys. Okay, so if you had several pages, you could show a progress bar, which is always good. Hide, submit another response. Customize the thank you message, which is always good. Thank you for your response. That's more beer oriented, I guess, so don't need that. Thank you for your response. We will follow up with you if you provided an email address. Okay, something like that. Yep. Allow respondents to edit their responses. Probably not bad. Allow receipt of response. Okay. So get email notification. I will say that if you select this, you will get bombarded by emails. Do not select that unless you are certain that you want that in your email box. All right, and so there are other little things here. So you can change the color. You can change if I were to do that, yeah, okay, that's a cute little theme, a little background music. Well, that would be aggravating. Not, none of this is necessary. I would suggest keeping it. You can change the layout. Oh, that's awful. Okay, so these are the different styles. Yeah, it's not great accessibility wise. It makes it a little bit more difficult to read. Not my favorite there. But and then you can have these. You have a number of different options here. It's actually pretty nice. The mug is the big one. Must be a word cloud there. Okay. So it's a good way of gathering information, and it's a much easier way of taking that information and presenting it in a certain way. So that's pretty helpful. So that's Microsoft Forms. Pretty straightforward, very streamlined. I actually prefer it. I haven't used Google Forms in a while. Let me see if I can. I wonder. Let me go see if I can find it real quick. I can bring that up just to take a look. The reason, again, I prefer Microsoft Forms, especially for the sake of school, is that the data is protected. Now, wow, I have not used this since 2019. That's impressive. So I'm going to create another form here. Here's Google Forms. Pretty much almost identical. Gives you a lot, the actual creation of the survey feels a little bit more streamlined, but I haven't really spent a whole lot of time with that. Maybe that might be a good subject for a UX survey. Which do you prefer? Let me look at, scooch this over again. Let me look at some of the responses, what it looks. Mm-mm. Let's see. I'm trying to find something that I'm sure has. Let's see. Anyway, this is almost a rabbit hole, so I'm not gonna worry about this so much. Yeah, these are going back quite a few years, and so let's. Yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to. This was a survey sent out to for other educators who are doing streaming. This is from 2019, so it's a little bit old. I'm kind of curious if there is um, responses. Okay, so there is the survey. You can tell was never sent out, but you can link to sheets. Anyway, so just wanted to make sure that that's still available in Google Forms. All right. So let's see what's some other things that we can talk about with regards to surveys. So let's think of some. Let's add a new question. All right. One, if this was a little bit longer, I might ask for feedback. Was there anything you would like to add about this survey? Tell you what, let's go to. Going to open up the survey so I can find it. Find the survey example that I put up in. There we go. So what I was hoping for here is that I would be able to write this in Word, which is always a good idea. Start your survey out in Word so you have you don't go through the hassle of doing what I was doing and trying to create it from scratch in Forms, especially for those in the interfaces class. Not, since you are collaborating, start a shared document in OneDrive and then create the questions from there and then add those questions to Forms later on. Just makes it much easier. What I was hoping I could do was actually to create a form from scratch. I wonder if I can do it. I'm going to try it. Let's give this a try. Go over to where are you at? Here you go. And let's see if this works. Okay. So if this works, and I should have tried this before, if this works, this will be great. Form, quiz, form. Okay. So it's going to convert that, and let's see how it reads because let's give it a try. Yeah, see, so that's not quite what I was looking for. It imports it, but I was kind of hoping it would automatically generate multiple choice answers from that. That's just too bad, but obviously the more open-ended questions are a little bit are good to go. So let's see if I can change that to there's not long answers, insert paste or drag media. I don't need any of that. So there's no real way to edit this from the to change the type of question. I can't really do it. So this might be something worth checking out. Let's see if I can importing forms. I'm thinking specifically about multiple choice questions. Okay. Let's see. I'll have to do this, check into this some other time. Let's see. I'm just looking at Microsoft Word. Yeah, there's really no arrange content vertically in line with which is what I did. So there must be a better way. Perhaps let's try something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do here, and you can watch this, I'm going to go ahead and erase this. See if that helps. I'm going to actually copy that. Oops, copy that. I'm going to do another version here. I'm going to remove the bulleted list. All right, so don't do that. Save as, save a copy. Interfaces, test 2. All right, so let's go back to forms. Let's try another one. Quick import your upload from this device, and do test 2. Oh, jeepers. Try it again. Let's just see how it does. Shouldn't take a minute. Yeah, nope. Yeah, doesn't that might take a little bit of time to figure out if that works at all, but so unfortunately multiple choice questions are not an easy import. That might be a solution for another day. I did however, from last week I did figure out some of the issues I was having with Figma. That will definitely be another session as we get closer to that work in this class. All right. I hope you all have a great week. If you're watching this as a recording, please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. I know there were probably some areas that were unclear. So anyway, have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week, Tuesday at 11:30 to 12:30. Thereabouts, we'll do Together We Write. This is made possible by a generous grant from CADL here on campus. So I thank them for enabling me to purchase this equipment. Is it being put to good use? I'm not so sure. Maybe I should need to add that to a survey. All right. Talk to y'all later.